The news. Headlines. Read all about it. In-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. Headlines.
Get quick access to loans from Page Financials. Page Financials, taking you further.
Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us this morning for Freshly Pressed 981. It's a segment of Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1 FM Lagos. My name is Valentine Ohu. Freshly Pressed 981 is a segment where we'll bring you detailed analysis of the top newspaper headlines for today, the 2nd of June, 2021, Wednesday. I have Chata in the studio. Good morning, Chata.
Good morning.
Good morning, Divo Okore, Mr. Eku. Eku Lagos.
Morning, Lagos. Morning, Val, Chata, Eku. 6 years into a country called Nigeria.
That's right. Well, 6 years into the administration of Buhari, President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, thank you so much for that. And let's join the conversation. Be part of it by sending your messages through WhatsApp to the number 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. You can tweet at Smooth981FM with the hashtag Freshly Pressed 981. You can watch live on Instagram, on YouTube at Smooth981FM. Jetta, let's start with this first story from the Punch newspaper. Yesterday, the president, according to the tweet by the handlers of the president, and there's a video, thank you.
He said that.
He threatened to deal with those who are misbehaving, gave a few threats, gave instances of the rampage that's happening in the East, most parts of the East, especially with the attacks on the INEC offices and facilities, made the comparison with the Civil War and said those who are misbehaving today are too young to be aware of the destruction of lives and property that occurred in the Civil War.
So before I go into our rather recalcitrant presidents, I want to say something about the leaders in the Southeast. Because up until now, after what was effectively a threat against the entire region, no Southeast political elite has spoken up. The truth is, Buhari will dare not speak to the Southwest, the North, or the South-South in this tone. In short, he addresses the Southeast in a condescending tone at opportunity. The same kind of paternalistic condescension that he uses to address Nigeria's youth. He shows more deference to Boko Haram, bandits, and other terrorist groups than he shows these two demographics, the Southeast and Nigeria's youths. And yet, our leaders, I'm an Igbo guy, our leaders just sit there and take it. Now, the thing about Buhari is that he clearly does not understand. You cannot kill everybody. That's one. And number two, violence begets violence. Let us try a thought experiment. Imagine what it would have been like, what things would have been like if in 2015, after being voted in, the man had said, after all, he visited every state, both in 2015 and 2019. He wore Ishiagu. If he had said, okay, you people didn't vote for me, but it's a democracy, you have a right to vote whoever you want to vote for. Now, why didn't you vote for me? What is it? Let us talk.
We mentioned this on Monday.
I'm your president.
Let me learn lessons.
Yeah, let me learn lessons. Imagine if he had done that. That's called empathy. That's called inclusiveness. That's what called being a leader. Now, something very important in the whole matter is compare the security situation in the Southeast before and after Python dance. Compare the security situation in the Northwest before and after Operation Harvey Kunama.
And Lafayette.
No, Lafayette was in response to Boko Haram, so that one. But that since we are going to Boko Haram, compare the situation before the operation that took out Mohammed Yusuf and after. Compare the Niger Delta when Obasanjo when men came on stream and Obasanjo tried to use force. Then eventually, even though I have a lot of criticisms of the presidential amnesty program, but when Yar'Adua called them to a table and said, okay, let us sit, let us talk. Compare. The hammer approach always makes security threats worse. It is Buhari that made Nnamdi Kanu. I wrote that as far back as 2016. The article is there. That the way you are handling this situation, I actually wrote a step of what should have been done. Instead, the man went and did the opposite and made this fellow a lot more influential than he should ever have been. Governments, being the one in charge, has a lot of tools in its arsenal to bring about peace and security and inclusiveness. But when government chooses the path of violence at every point in time, then you will see there's an Igbo saying, is as the man does, so the drums are beat for him. That's what we are seeing, essentially.
The PDP replied and said he should stop the threats. Is that in a way, turning up their noses at the president's recent threats, saying that it lacks, any merit?
So my own reaction is this is something that Buhari does not seem to understand. The Nigerian states no longer have the capacity to carry out sustained large-scale operations all over the country or in any part of the country. You know why? Because there are fires in every single geopolitical zone in this country. So we don't have enough people to meet those threats head on. Is that the capacity does not exist? So these are essentially empty threats. But even though they're empty threats, they serve the function of heating up the temperature, heating up the policy, which a president should not do. Haba.
I also recall strongly how you said, "Oh, there's a video," because the first
no, it's live. It was live now.
The reactions, yes, but the initial reactions as we saw the tweet, because the tweet first broke, people were saying, "Oh, that he's speaking through he's speaking through his aides." And he wasn't, saying it himself. But now everybody knows for sure.
Yes, it was broadcast on
his language, right?
The television stations.
But we wait to see the actions that will follow the words. The next story from the Vanguard newspaper is seems like a town. I mean, reads like a town crier statement. Giving eulogies to his chief. And speaking of the president as well, his information minister, and I say his information minister specifically because it seems, I'll let you take us through the story, Divo. But Lai Mohammed is giving credit to the president based on his tenure for the past 6 years. As you well noted as we started the show, he clocked 6 years in this administration by Saturday, May 29th. Yes. Please take us through this story and let me know what you think of the information minister's assertion to the president's success.
Yes, and I would call it the Buhari administration. Okay. Now, basically, he was speaking that that they are going to go ahead to publish and to use every communication channel available to put out the achievements of this current administration, which came into being in 2015, all right? And that many had been accusing them that since 2015, that Buhari had done nothing, the administration had done nothing to change the lives of Nigerians. Now, in trying to change his perceptions, he put a premise forward that many have forgotten, that in 2015 there was a drop in oil price, okay? They came in with weak revenues, okay? Weak paucity of funds to be able to deal with the many challenges that they faced in the country at that time. And despite the weak funds, they were able to achieve much. And that the security challenges that are dogging Nigeria at the moment are only recent and they're fleeting. And they would not define Buhari's legacy. And he spoke to many, most times the naysayers pretend about the reality of the achievements that cut across the infrastructural strides of the roads, the rails, the power, aviation, health, ports, and the fight against the COVID-19. And he says that they pretend that they're not real. Now, that's basically what he captured as his position as to why they will soon be going about to correct perception and have it documented. Now the question is, should a government really have to convince you as to what they've done? And they're speaking after the fact. What do the people really say at the end of the day? Some of these statements, even though in some aspects, you can give the Buhari administration credit, but you carefully more or less deny, or you carefully do not mention the areas that Nigeria has been challenged in, and that's also a part of leadership. What is the, you know how they ask people when it's time for election, are you better off now than when you started in 2015? I don't even need to answer that. Like the newspapers are rife for the past 4 to 5 years as to how Nigerians feel in terms of what is going on and how they're being led in the state of governance. What is the state of the economy? How have people fared in terms of the economy, despite a few of these achievements that they've claimed? Now, while they say they will communicate, the problem is, have they been communicating? What approach have they been given? Why do you have to attempt to convince Nigerians that you have done well and that you have a legacy? Were they carrying people along? This issue we spoke of in the first topic that Cheta spoke to about the ongoing tensions with the Southeast. What manner of communication has taken place till date? What sound bites, what rhetorics have been going forward that give a certain section of the country a feeling that they don't belong? As some people would argue and debate, if you don't want them based on your statements and your actions, then let them go. Now, media parties, usually which are known worldwide as opportunities of governance to be able to communicate with the people, have we had them? No, what we've had is pre-recorded statements to the people, one-way traffics. These are the issues when you question, why do you need to prove to yourself? Two, the cry for restructuring from different parts of this nation is proof that you literally have not carried people along. You literally are not in the states that people can say that you have done well. If we were all together, why should we be trying to divide Nigeria or divide, what do you call it, sectional, or the, what do you call them, the acts for self-actualization? This government really needs to take a check at itself, because they have about 2 years left, but at the going rate, I'm not sure the Nigerian people would be able to agree with these statements that Lai Mohammed has put forward.
The normal thing that people expect, or it's found to be normal, and what the people just treat as the regular occurrence, is when a body or an organization or a group of people achieve well some level of success based on some metrics. You have a neutral body giving them recommendations or rating them.
Or even the people themselves.
Or even the people themselves, right?
Speaking. Let the social media reflect the good you have done. And let the commentary coming from international bodies and local bodies.
And not you by yourself doing the work and then proving it, or telling yourselves that you're giving yourselves the numbers. You say you give yourself some pass mark and everything. We've been seeing
you're
that
the judge and the jury, or like in some state governments where you plaster all your achievements around the people. If people feel you are good, they will speak about it.
Right? In a time where we still say actions speak louder than words, and at the same time still believe that perception is sometimes very wide apart from reality. Cheta, based on these metrics, debt, GDP, inflation, food prices, unemployment, do you think how well, I can guess your answer, but how well has the president or this administration done in the past 6 years? Now that I'll give them
my answer is not an opinion. My answer is the fact based on the government's own statistics agency. The data brought out by the government's own statistics agency. It's not so. The story that we're looking at now is that the premium time story. 6 years in office, Buhari fails to deliver on economy. That's what, as in premium times, which many have accused of being pro-government. This is what they are writing. I'm not going to go into all of that because all the figures are worse off than they were 6 years ago. Debt, our debt, our domestic debt has doubled. Our international debt has risen by a factor of 10. You can actually check it out. So essentially, in terms of total, because the previous government focused more on domestic borrowing. In terms of total, our debt has tripled in the last 6 years. Our GDP has fallen. Inflation, we'll get to that. Food prices, we'll get to that. Unemployment, those are the two that I want to focus on: inflation and unemployment. So, the day Buhari took over, which is May 29th, 2015, inflation, the main inflation, overall inflation was 9%. Food inflation was 9.78%, both of them single digits. One of the things that the Ahmed Joda report, remember that one of our most experienced civil servants, Ahmed Joda, was the head of a committee that produced the handover notes for for the government when they were taking over. One of the things that the report focused on was how to bring food inflation down from 9.78%, inflation down from 9%, and prevent it from getting into double digits. It was one of the, so earlier on, they had already identified that this was a problem.
Mhm.
Now, inflation is 18.12%, almost 20%. Food inflation is 22.72%. At 100 naira now, or your aggregate bread at 100 naira now. Buhari is leaving. If food inflation remains at 22.72%, it will be 200 naira. That is in 2 years' time, it would have done. Regarding unemployment, again, something that the Ahmed just talked about, and which is very critical. Back when Buhari took over, had 5.53 million unemployed people in the country, and the labor force at the time was 73.4 million people. Today, the labor force has shrunk to 69.68 million people, but we now have 23.19 million unemployed people. Unemployment has gone up by a factor of more than 4, despite the fact that the labor force has shrunk. And that difference, of 4 million people, it's not that 4 million people died. Is that a lot of them, a huge majority of them, have either given up and left the country, but even the numbers who have left the country permanently, it cannot be up to a million. In short, a million it cannot be up to 100,000. It means a lot of people have simply given up looking for work. We now have 23.19 million unemployed people in the country. For the record, the population of Belgium is 11.5 million people. So there's double the size of Belgium unemployed, as in they wake up doing nothing. And I wonder why we have security problems all over the place.
Easy father.
When it comes to
Okay, you got a sponsor.
okay,
That's true.
so I go Gabon on top.
It's not me that you asked.
It's not getting the cut.
It's not me that you asked. Glad to have you join us on the show. The Fresh brings detailed analysis of our newspaper's headlines.
No, don't get it
right. My name is Valentine Ogu, and we have Cheta Wanze, and we have.
Let me go and start preparing invoice for the years of
I have to take the
accumulated.
messages. This one, Victor Wakasi says, nobody or zone should be threatened by war anymore. Wars are now in the CM and Iraq, etc. Nigerians are seeing the vices of war already. With our war experienced president lead us away from war and not the social media intimidation. We need a fresh start. Peace. Jerry Eruga from Peace Estate in Barua says the president should address the grievances of Southeasterners to restore peace in that zone. Threat statements should be directed to kidnappers, bandits, and killer headsmen, and not the harmless group. IPOB. Edmund says Buhari's threats, it's a tale told by, I'm not going to use those words, disparaging remarks not allowed on the show, please. Godwin from Bagada says, okay, he has some, disconcerting thoughts about Cheta's words. He says the president deserves respect no matter how poor his performance is. But you say the truth, you state the facts, not necessarily an insult when you state those facts, just for context. Emeka Nelum says, Donald Trump's Twitter account was removed for making inciting statements. I don't see why Twitter cannot do the same in this case. But
They will say that Jack is rude.
Dr. I says, hello, the violence in Nigeria is bad, but it's galling that Buhari and the APC chose to threaten a section of the country with the specter of a horrible civil war. This administration is one of the worst he have seen in my lifetime, second only to Abacha's. It's difficult to see a peace resolution to the legitimate agitation for good governance from Nigerians. Dr. I, thank you. Samuel from Lekki says Buhari has done what most Nigerian presidents have not done. This Mr. Lai Mohammed always had it before his administration. What about the economy? Ibo from Ikeja says, do we think our leaders really care what we think when they give these statements? How we manage to analyze these statements day after day on Freshly Pressed is quite interesting. And Noel from Ikeja says, good morning, Freshly Pressed team. Thanks for the great review today. Thanks, Cheta, for that summary of the president's attitude to the peace. When a leader is too sectional, the whole lot, there's a whole lot. Okay, I didn't get that last part. And we said on this 6 years performance that there are much fewer people in the country to see any good that he may have done. Now, when he started, our insecurity has proved more fatal than COVID. So really, Nigerians care nothing about vaccines, give good governance, period. Yakubu Israel says, thank you for that. Anthony says, I'm not surprised when Lai and other politicians come up with assessments like that, because I've known for a long time that they don't live in our world. They will only return when they're out of office. Olatunbo also says, no government in the world where violence against its people ended well. A case study is Afghanistan, where all the sophistication of the US military, they had to bow and leave before fighting against an ideology. Fighting against an ideology is forever. It says the Nigerian president goofed, not his first time though, for those threats, and he should have known that he will not be in Aso Rock forever, and his name will be remembered. However, that should balance the analysis, because governments will sincerely let the region under his watch, would not sincerely let the region under his watch degenerate into anarchy. Good morning, brilliant minds. Thank you, Olatunbo.
Can I say something to Olatunbo?
Yes.
Yeah, very briefly. Under his watch, so when he took over, only one region was in anarchy. On his watch, all 6 now in anarchy. Let's face it. 2 days ago, 165 kids were marched out of a school in 9 states, just basically 3 hours from where he was sitting. And he hasn't threatened those bandits. I mean,
although the bandits are threatening now.
Yes, because they've asked for significant amount of money in change.
And the change that Cheta is
He
referring
did
to
say
is how
that
much
he would
that.
crush the bandits, if I remember.
Yeah, that was the first of yesterday. Now,
No.
That was since.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's been reiterated.
He used to say, "Oh, I'll crush them. Now he's saying, "Oh, and what was it that he used when he appealed to the bandits after the Greenfield thing?" So his language has changed. See why I said empty threats.
Now the bandits have confirmed their abduction of 156 Niger pupils and demanding 110 million naira to be paid tonight, else they'll kill the students. Your thoughts on this, Debo?
Well, this is a story which I'm happy came out in the media, but it actually needs, as we know, there was another abduction, a mass abduction that took place in Niger State across the weekend, where then it was reported 200. But now, as of Monday by 4 p.m., the bandits were in contact with the school headmaster of the Islamaya school in Rafia local government, that's Alhaji Al Hassan, and they mentioned to him, and this is their own script, that they expect to receive 110 million by the end of day on Wednesday, that is today, or they will kill all the children. Now, they have also put a notice to the state government, who said it wouldn't be paying any ransom. Now, the principal was speaking to correspondents on this effect as the updated news as to what is happening. Now, while public-spirited people within the community have been looking for ways to raise money, the press secretary to the governor did state that they were aware of the situation, that the number of kidnapped school children was not ascertained, but the security agencies are at work, intensified their operations to see how they can rescue the girls and bring them back safely. Now, you see, this is a situation that we see happening over and over. It's like a script being played out. We know how this works. And one of the issues I want to bring out is, first of all, why is it the bandits that are giving us the counts of children that they have? I also want to hear from the school, how many kids have you lost? That's one.
At least they have a record.
They should have a record. I mean, even if it's a day school, you know the number of children. Why are we hearing details from the bandits?
Bro, even if it's an evening school, you have a record. They
I
registered, didn't they?
I mean, that's just a big failure. I think the Ministry of Education
People
should
haven't
look
been to
into
pub-
that.
it's like people
Secondly,
haven't been to public schools in this country in a long time.
well, as of Monday, the count was like at 200. Now it's about 156.
Yeah, because
However,
the bandits let go of a number of the children.
yes.
They said that these ones were too weak to walk into the booth with them, so they actually let some
Well,
of the
you
children
say walk, and that's my next question. How were 156 children carted away without detection or tracking or trailing? Well, did they have 150 Okadas for them to move? Did they come in a
They
truck or
marched them
container
away.
and they were not trailed or tracked? How far can students go? These are just questions. Now, the truth is, there's a debate that kidnapping has become a full-blown industry, okay? Despite the government's position that it hasn't been paying ransom. I think we all can read between the lines that bandits, even when a certain sheikh had gone out and spoken with them, many did say that, oh, they were using these things to buy weapons, etc. I think that was attested by the Kaduna State governor, that it's a, what's the word?
Arms proliferation.
No, that it's
It's
futile.
industry.
It's futile
It's an
paying them because you still pay them to go and buy more weapons. They use it to maintain themselves. Now, remember, we still have cases of students that are still in the hands of bandits, and the most famous, the poster girl, that's Leah Sheribu, who, and the debate is, if you've been paying for some, how come you haven't paid to release Leah Sheribu? Now, beyond the ridiculous position that's coming in a bill in the National Assembly to criminalize the payment of ransom, our parents are hopeless in their fight against this insecurity. It's education under attack in Nigeria that we can't pay, that we must be paying on our own to rescue the students that are abducted. We all know what happened in the case of the Greenfield parents.
It's very, very sad, and you bring that to mind. Just, I pray and hope that something is done in the next few hours, because I wouldn't want anything to happen to this kid.
I just wonder why Jivo was contradicting Lai Mohammed in that story.
Premium Times. Let's get to this Premium Times story. The Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, they've been on strike for 9 weeks. This week makes it 9 weeks, based on the obvious issues they've had with the federal government, autonomy, financial autonomy,
And
being
state
a report that has unfolded and revealed something that most of us know, right? That there are touts that are racketeering and providing affidavits at the courts, regardless of the
I mean, I don't know why that is a story. Well, the story is that the courts have been closed for 59 days. That's the story. Having said that, the real issue is that things have to go on somehow. So, for example, the many who want to go to, say, Canada, they need one affidavit or the other in order to be able to proceed. If you want to get a visa to certain countries, so for example, Russia, you need an affidavit in order to be able to proceed. So there's still a market, and because affidavits can there's something called the notary public, which we had one of the lawyers on to explain this thing better. There's something called the notary public you can still get those there. So of course there will be thugs who will exploit the situation. Natural. I think the real tragedy here is that the courts have been closed for this long, because it tells us exactly where we are and how important the government sees dispute resolution. And the truth is that dispute resolution, adjudication, is the single most important function of something you call government. It's the single most important,
especially in a democratic system.
So if they don't see this as important, then it shows we have a problem. Imagine all sorts of investors wanting to bring money into the country, and then you tell them that the courts have been closed for 59 days, which means that if they logically and naturally have a dispute with somebody, and disputes always arise, they don't have anywhere to resolve that dispute. That's investor going to go to Ghana.
But you're even talking foreign. What about Nigerians who end up in the hands of police? Who's going to address the charge and bail or address the real issue?
They are already citizens of Federal Republic of anyhow, so they are used to it.
Interesting thoughts there shared. Latin Boston says those terrorists disguised bandits have since changed tactics from bombing to kidnapping, and they're putting round pegs in round holes. But the Nigerian security system puts in round pegs in square holes. He said bad tactics, bad strategy, bad intelligence from our forces, sadly. Samuel from Lekki says, Why are you people trying to paint this government bad by that Niger students were kidnapped without detection? Don't you know that the president sent all the soldiers and police to the southeast to harass a more peaceful region? Interesting. Dan Okuda says, my assessment of the administration is that it's a monumental failure. Abdullah Karakiri says, please note that social media comments Yatik. How many people are on social media? No, that's not Yatik. It says, do you know that NBS qualifies the unemployed? Come on, guys, your program is fast. Nah, it's not. Thank you so much, Abayami. But I do understand your point of view. Ken Wachuku from Surulere says, Igbo, you need to get to the east to understand the level of propaganda. Uneducated people have really lost the sense of reasoning. It's a minute gone past 8 o'clock. This is where we draw the curtains on the conversation this morning here on radio, but we're extending to social media. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPress981. Tweet at Cheta1 at Checkstar, at Divo Kore, at Smooth981FM. Stay with us for Valentine.
Get quick access to loans.